Hello, historians. Mr. Spalding here. We're looking at point of view and the historian. You will need a piece of paper for notes, and you will also need to open up a document as we move along. I will pause the video and give you opportunity to open that document. But for right now, just have a blank sheet of paper out for notes. Point of view is one of the most important concepts for historians. It's also very important for you as young adults and as members of a democracy. Understanding point of view is a basic life skill, especially in these days where we have access to so much information that is of varying qualities from many different sources. Here are two reports about the same event. Just recently, President Trump announced a $13 billion aid package for Puerto Rico. I would like you to open up the text document provided for you and examine the two sources. And on your piece of paper, I'd like you to write down an answer to the question, what is the difference in these two reports of the same event? So please write down that question. What is the difference in these two reports of the same event? Then open the text document and read the two reports. Then write your answer to the question. I will pause the video to give you about 4 minutes to do this. All right. You may have an answer, but how about this? Does this information help you? Geraldo Rivera is the reporter whose opinion was reported in the first document on the left-hand side. He's an opinion writer and reporter for Fox News. He's Puerto Rican. He was born in Brooklyn, New York, to Puerto Rican parents. He became a lawyer and then later a war reporter to a variety of places, including Iraq and Afghanistan. For 11 years, he was a daytime TV talk show host. The author, or rather speaker, whose response to President Trump's announcement reported on the right-hand side, or the second source, is U.S. House of Representatives member Nydia M. Velázquez. She's from New York. She's a Democrat. She's the first Puerto Rican woman to be elected to the U.S. House of Representatives. She was born in 1953 in Yabucoa, Puerto Rico, a small town of sugarcane fields. And in 1953, she was one of 9 children. She started school early, skipped several grades, and became the first person in her family to receive a college diploma. Does this help? Check your answer and make any changes you need to make. Now, what about this? Geraldo Rivera was controversial for his wartime reporting. He was also controversial for his talk show theatrics. Actually, a bit of family history here. My mother and her husband appeared on the Geraldo Rivera show at one time. So, how about this for U.S. House of Representatives Nydia M. Velazquez? She was the supporter of the Puerto Rican independence movement. She led the Hispanic caucus in the House of Representatives, and she was a leader in the Vieques movement, which sought to stop the U.S. military from using an inhabited island as a bomb testing ground. Does this help you answer the question? I'll pause the video and give you time to change or add to your answer. All right, so what is the difference in these two reports of the same event? It comes down to POV, or point of view. Point of view is an underlying perspective. It's not simply the position, title, or role of a person, but these can influence the POV. There are two elements which you must consider as a historian. First, the perspective. What is the perspective? And secondly, an explanation. What is the reason for the perspective? Also note that POV is often implicit. It's not stated clearly. You have to figure it out from the context clues, from the source information, and from what you can piece together about the author. I'm going to pause the video and give you a moment to write down these 4 important bullet points which define point of view. All right, please write down this question at the top on your page. How can you figure out point of view? Do not write everything on this page, but do write the question. How can you figure out point of view? Well, who is the publisher? Is there a common perspective from this publisher? What is the genre or type? Consider the speaker's position and their background. Consider the occasion when they produced this statement or made this document. Consider the audience, who they made it for, and consider why they made it or said this in the first place. This can all be summarized by the acronym SOAP: Speaker, Occasion, Audience, and Purpose. This is applied to the speaker, not the source as a whole. So I'd like you to write down SOAP and those bold words: speaker, occasion, audience, and purpose. And I'll pause the video for a moment to allow you to do that. Now, why does this matter? I'd like you to write down this question, and again, I will pause the video and give you time to answer this. Why does point of view matter? Point of view influences the topic that is presented, the details that included or omitted, and judgments about the topic, and much more. I'd like you to write down the bold words and the statement: point of view influences topic, details, and judgments. And I'll pause the video to allow you time to do that. Topic, details, and judgments. All right, So let's apply this concept to two of our sources related to indentured servitude. The first one, Herman Merivale, British Undersecretary of the Colonies, 1850s. He says indentured laborers are not voluntary immigrants in the ordinary sense, led by spontaneous desire of bettering their conditions. They are not slaves, seized by violence, brought over in fetters, that means chains and cuffs, and working under the lash or whip. They have been raised, in other words, they have been enlisted or signed up, not without effort, like recruits for the military service. In other words, it's taken a lot of work to get these people to sign up. So, point of view, we need to consider speaker, occasion, audience, and purpose. So, we'll start off with a main idea. Look in the upper right-hand corner. It says Merivale portrays indentured servitude as an entirely voluntary form of labor. That is the main idea. It's a statement that summarizes what the document is saying in a single sentence. You should have already done that for 6 documents from this set. Now, point of view. We'll first say why he has the perspective, and then we're going to say what his perspective is. You could do this in the opposite order. You could give his perspective first and then say why he has it. Either order is correct. So, in the 1850s, Britain was expanding its empire. Fact, context, what's happening at the same time. That's the occasion. As an official in this empire, that's his position, his point of view would be to promote colonial development and encourage indentured servitude as a voluntary and noble way of meeting the labor demands of the growing imperial economy. That's his point of view. It also talks about the audience, the imperial economy, the empire. Much as voluntary soldiers in an army, here I refer to the source. And note what he doesn't include. He does not address the actual conditions experienced by the laborers. Now, in 3 sentences, I've summarized the document and I've explained what his point of view is and the reason for his point of view. Let's look at a second source, document 4. Oh, I tricked you here. This source is not a good source to consider point of view for. Don't consider a point of view for this kind of source that just conveys information and it's a secondary source. Usually. Now, there are exceptions to this rule, but you should consider another quality, such as context or audience or purpose, for documents that don't clearly have a point of view or are not affected by a point of view. So I will not give you any documents like this for today's work in class or for homework. But all of your source sets have usually 1 or 2 documents that point of view is not relevant for. So remember, point of view influences the topic that is presented, the details that are included or omitted, and judgments about the topic. That's why it's important. What is it? It's an underlying perspective. It's not the position, title, or role of a person, but these are important and they influence point of view. Point of view has 2 elements that must be included when you write about it: the perspective and an explanation of reasons for the perspective. And remember, it's often implicit It's not usually stated in so many words. All right. Homework tonight. All right, classwork first, before homework. Classwork will be to examine 5 documents for point of view, and then to write about the main idea and point of view of each document. For homework, you will be doing the same thing for another 5 documents.